Hello and good morning, feeders. Today is November 28th, 2021, and my name is DJ. Joining me today, as always, we have Feeder Finance Patrick. Pat, if you'd like to say hello to our lovely viewers at home.
Hi guys.
Hey. So, starting off as usual, we'll go into the TLDR before getting into the meat and potatoes of our update. So, core contract testing of the lending platform is 90% complete. We're working through some additional functionalities like a loan marketplace, collateral vaults, etc. In aggregate, we're looking at 55% or 60% of this functionality being completed, and we're still on track for our timeline. Social DeFi, still in quality assurance with another turn on Monday. Went through internal front-end testing over the weekend, and we're hoping to launch it early next week. Fingers crossed. The portfolio upgrade has met some hurdles, but optimization has been pushed through, so you'll notice some faster loading times. Multiple minor updates have been pushed from utilization rate, search page, sidebar quick link, and the back button remembering search and filter settings. Very, very nice quality of life updates. And an AMA has been hosted recently on FTM Alerts, so go check out some of Pat's very well thought out answers. A new article has been submitted by a feeder member on how to stay safe in crypto. Be sure to give that a read and keep yourself educated. So, getting into the meat and potatoes, this has been a crazy week for Binance Smart Chain. There's been a lot of node congestion. This has been a recurring theme for the past couple months. What do you have to say about it, Pat? What are your thoughts on the congestion that's been happening across the network?
It's been a headache, I guess.
Fair.
Yeah, and it's been going on for quite some time, and especially this week. And it gets a lot worse usually when you have, you know, market volatilities.
Yep.
Um, and we've had some this week, well, we had some actually over the past couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that has, worsened the situation. And and maybe I can give our community some context into what it really is, from my understanding, not going too deep into the technicalities of things, but
Sure.
um, when you send transactions into the blockchain, that goes through the validators, and when the network is congested, transactions still, most of the time go through fine. It may take a lot longer for transactions to be validated because you're queuing up with other people sending send transactions through. Um, we talk a lot about nodes, and what these are is actually they're providers of data. So they sync their servers or their database with information that is coming from the blockchain, and we use these information to then calculate certain things and showing them on our front end. And a lot of things are real time, especially those things on the portfolio page are real time. And so what the issues that we've had was usually when nodes don't sync. And what that means is they could be out of sync for a couple minutes, hours, in some cases even days. And so when you have conflicting data, because we're syncing across four different nodes, and these are all top tier nodes, Anchor and the like. And so when you have all these conflicting information, things start to go haywire, right, on the front end, and then you have errors in the back end, and then your portfolio doesn't load.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we've been experiencing. And so what we've done a lot over a couple of weeks, and especially this week, is to try to find a way to optimize the backend. So when you have these type of errors that are originated from the nodes, but um, trying to find a way to minimize errors and minimize issues going on to the front end. And so that's what we've been doing. A lot of that was also to clean up the code itself, to simplify things, because as we've been developing over the past 7 months, it's piece by piece getting added on top of each other. In many cases, we haven't gone back because we were in speed development. We haven't gone back to optimized the coding that we've done maybe a couple months ago, and so we've built on top of that, and then it starts to pile up. But we've done a lot of that, and Rafael's done a great job on that to speed up the portfolio because we've dialed down the coding structures to keep it lighter weight. And so all of that is what we've been spending perhaps even half of our time this week just optimizing to make sure that when there's congestions and when nodes are having issues that we minimize. I don't think we can say that we eliminate those problems because I don't think we can, but we can minimize it, and that's what we've been doing.
So half the week has been spent on fixing node optimization. The other half of the week, what has it been spent on? It looks like 17 new vaults have been put out for Taro.
Yeah, we have launched 17, I think last week, and we've launched another 12 this week. And most of it is really, over half of them are really stable. And they're partly strategic because, the market looks like it may or may not be, it's been in a correction, but it may or may not enter, a bear market early or earlier than people had expected. I think the market was expecting something like January, December, before we have a major correction, after the December bull run. And we're not sure whether that will or will not happen. This is not financial advice, but we want to make sure that our product portfolio, but also in FTM, caters for all market conditions. And having USDC, USDT, and a lot of options for that is going to be important when people start to move back into stables to stay safer, and taking some risk off their portfolio. So we've added I think 8 stable options. We also added 2 BTC options. Magic Internet Money could be considered stable too. We've added that as well. So these are new vaults on FTM. We'll have a couple more for Terra in the next couple days, probably focusing on FTM as well, because we don't have I think we only have 1 FTM auto staking. So we'll add some more of those, maybe BNB as well for the FTM users that want to vault BNBs. And then we'll circle back to doing some BSC vaults because we've had some requests from our community members, and they look interesting, and we want to work on those.
Anything noteworthy here?
I think there's some buy swap and baby swap, I think. Farm options that are offering high APYs, and so we'll look into those and see if we can aggregate them.
Interesting. Okay. So 17 new vaults, a lot of backend optimization. How about the lending platform? How's that coming along?
It's coming along well. So when you think about our lending platform in general, there are a couple of pieces, right? You have the core sort of deal maker smart contract that set the deals. So who is collateralizing what the terms are, and all of those things. That's the core piece, which we're almost completing. And then there's the NFT piece that allows for the loans then to be traded in a marketplace. And then you have allowing for the collateral to be vaulted while it's being collateralized. So, if you're collateralizing feed, you could be, well, not feed would be a bad example, but if you're collateralizing, say USDT, right? You could be earning 20% while you're collateralizing. So effectively, you've been, reducing your effective borrowing costs because you're earning on top of what you're paying in interest, using your collateral. So that's the third piece that we're sort of also working on. So I think in aggregate, this would be my opinion. I don't know if Jimmy would agree, but I think we're roughly in aggregate, when you put all those pieces together, we're 55, maybe 60% there. And our launch timeline, or our expectation for the launch, would be by the end of the year. So
Still
We
on
have,
pace.
you know, we're still on track, and we have maybe a week and a half until we need to submit the pitch, and I think we're fine still for that timeline. Um, so let's see. I think we're good on this end.
Good. Well, how about social DeFi there? Been really excited to see Pandit's work come out.
Yeah, me too. We actually tested the front end over the weekend, and pretty much everything was working fine. The only thing was to do some fixes in terms of how when there are some errors, or when there's some pop-ups, what they would say when they would pop up
Mm-hmm.
to improve the user experience.
Right.
Um, we also need to optimize how user investment impacts the score, because the way we're thinking about it is your share of the investment in that vault impacts the overall score of that vault. So, you know, um, if you own 90% of the investment in that vault, you should have 90% of the impact to what the score is based on your review.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the piece, that's the mechanical piece that we need some fixes. And Fimi's thinking Monday we should get it fixed, and once that part is fixed, we're pretty much done. And so we'll see if once after that's fixed and we do another test run and everything, if everything goes well, then I think we're pretty much good to launch. So we'll see. We'll see.
And how about the portfolio upgrade and optimization there? Seems to be another thing that got delayed just a little bit.
Yeah, because Raphael is doing a lot of the optimization work with Jimmy
Mm-hmm.
that we spoke about. So he hasn't spent as much time on the upgrade. And when I say upgrade, it's the price tool. And we spoke about that before, the price tool being data aggregation into databases that allows for the portfolio to show historical data. It will allow for the trading or the exchange to be upgraded so that we have charts to show and allow for, trading to happen on the platform. That same tool also allows for a market data page, which will show, token specific historical returns, APYs, and all of those data. So this price tool is instrumental to a lot of our future features.
Mm-hmm.
And Rafa hasn't had, 100% of his time spent on this because he needed to optimize the portfolio for us because of the node issues. But we've also found that when you think about aggregating data, these are data that's coming from the AMMs, right? From the centralized exchanges like PancakeSwap, Spooky, SpiritSwap, BuySwap, and all of those guys. And in the case of Pancake, which is pretty much the core of BSC's trading,
DeFi.
activities.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. They don't have an easy way for developers to pull data,
Mm-hmm.
and it's likely because they themselves are struggling with that data. Because we've seen that Pancake has been struggling with the node issue as well.
Yep.
And I think that stems from their backend not handling data aggregation very well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't offer us the ability to pull data. And so what we'll need to do is pretty much build that customized one for Pancake in particular. So that's one hurdle that we need to go through. It's not a deal breaker in any form,
Mm-hmm.
because we can do it. It just means that we need to spend more time to develop that piece. But otherwise, I think we're progressing quite well because, like I said, once this piece is done, everything else is easy, right? Because then you have all you need, and all we need to do is pull the data from the price tool and calculate or show it on the front end, because that's essentially what the whole thing is. It's just data.
Right.
And so once we get the data right, then everything else is pretty easy.
So it looks like we've also done some backend optimization, which we've touched on, but some little minor developments have been added to just around Feeder Finance's site. Would you like to talk about one of your favorites here out of all of these?
Sure. I think I can highlight one or two, because while this is pundits work, because while Jimmy's, QAing the social DeFi, pundits has been working on these requests or suggestions in our to-do list that we mentioned before. We had
Mm-hmm.
70 or so items, so we're going through them as well while they're when we have any availability. I think the utilization rate is pretty cool because it when you're thinking about
Sorry about that.
hi there, no worries. So when you're thinking about products that are utilizing lending pools, the most important thing an investor will need to care about is how much utility or utilization rate is for that particular pool,
Mm-hmm.
because the risk is if the pool is 100% utilized, then you potentially can withdraw your money because what you're doing is you're lending money and all of your money has been lent.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to wait for these guys to pay back their loans before you can pull your money out. But what it also helps for investors is because the way these borrowing rates work is that once you get to a certain point where utilization rate is too high, so maybe 80, 90% plus, the borrowing rate starts to push exponentially higher.
Oh yeah.
So if you have, yeah, if you have products that are at 90, 95%, the APY would be 30, 40, pushing 50% for instance. We've seen that with BNB for a time.
Yep.
What that means for you is that you would expect these to not maintain for extended periods,
Mm-hmm.
because the borrowers can't afford that, right? They can't afford paying 50, 60% for their borrowing, because there's no way they could, well, it's highly unlikely that they would be able to generate excess returns above their borrowing rate.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at these products, it's good to know that, if the utilization rate is at 50, 60, 70%, then I think you're safe in terms of getting whatever returns you're seeing in front of you. So if it's 30%, then you would probably expect that to maintain for a while. But if it's 90%, then you might have to consider the fact that these rates may not maintain for long. And so if this is not okay, then you should reconsider. So that's why I think this is an important update. The other update at the bottom that I think is pretty cool is the back button. This seems like a small thing, but it's really not, because adding this was quite a lot of work. So what it does is, so when you think about our users filtering and searching and all of that before they hit a product, before when you hit or when you enter a product and you click back, those search and filters will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would have to repeat the whole process again. And so if you're browsing or you have an investment strategy that you want to browse through, and you hit back and everything disappears, you have to redo the whole process again, which is quite
Yeah,
annoying.
that can be
Uh,
frustrating.
yeah, yeah. And so with this, upgrade, those things would stay. And so if you're searching for BNB on Terra or on Pancake, and you want it to be auto farming, if you hit a product and you go back, those settings stay. And so I think this is a really good upgrade for our users. And so if you guys find any bugs, let us know. But I think it's working pretty fine. Post our journal reviews.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of good updates here. I really like the back button one. That one just saves a lot of time. It's a little thing, like you said, but it's something that really makes a difference to investors. So kudos. Um,
Yep.
so it looks like there was a really good AMA that you had with FTM Alerts. I won't poke you too much about it. People can go read the transcript, but How do you feel about it? I think it was a very well done AMA.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was, I mean, I've done a couple, and this is probably the best one I've ever done because of how insightful the questions were.
Hmm.
They were well thought out. And the cool thing is we didn't even prepare ahead of time for the AMA. It was all just community generated questions. And typically when we have these AMAs, it's usually just, prize hunters that just throw out, pretty classic questions that, they don't put a lot of thoughts into.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, I went through all of the questions. I answered all of the questions that were not asked in the AMA, and they were all really well thought out questions. And so I think the community at FTM Alerts are really high quality, and the questions reflect that. And we spent 2 hours just answering really good questions, and I think we've done quite okay. Um, and there were a lot of interest from the FTM communities, and I think what we're lacking on that front is that we don't have enough products
Mm-hmm.
yet on FTM, and that's why we've just added um, you
17.
know 17, almost 20 more in aggregate over the past 2 weeks, and we'll still be adding more as well because there's a lot of good vaults potential there on
Mm-hmm.
FTM. We don't have a lot of users on FTM yet, and so that's why we also need to focus on BSC. But we'll try our best to grow the users there as well.
Absolutely. So the last thing we have here is an article published by one of our community members, Lee, about how to stay safe in crypto. Definitely a good read. I was very pleased to see how insightful Lee was with being diligent, and just spreading as much safety and caution as they could. So big kudos to them.
Yeah, yeah, and I really appreciate his help. And if any one of you guys have any topics you are interested in, just send it over to us. Or if you want to write it yourself, we're happy to cycle it together. You and me. Yeah. If you want to cycle it through with me, I'm happy to do that, and we'll publish it once it's done. Because the more people that are contributing to this effort, the better. Because it takes time to write these articles, and it was a couple days for me and Lee to cycle the article, but I think we got it pretty good. A lot of detailed information about how to stay safe in crypto, but also in cybersecurity in general. About
Mm-hmm.
things like how to keep your password safe using two FAs and stuff like that. So just give it a quick read if you guys have time, and if there's anybody that is new to crypto, feel free to share it because I think it's good to know for anybody new to crypto because this is when you have an industry that's not regulated, everybody's
It's the Wild West.
responsible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for your own money, and you can't go to to support or to the police. So make sure your friends and family are safe from these scammers and fraudsters. So yeah.
Absolutely. Before we go, is there any final thoughts you have for our viewers at home?
Yes, I think my final thoughts is to follow the news closely because I think the latest news out over the weekend about the new variant out of South Africa is concerning.
Mm-hmm.
I think the market is a bit overdone there because in terms of, and you guys might know this as well, but if you're not following the news, as far as we know, the variant is far more infectious than the Delta, the Omicron, I think it's the name.
Oh, good.
But it's yeah, but it's I can't really pronounce these Greek letters right.
Yeah.
But they're more infectious, but they're also milder. So, and even though that we don't have a vaccine yet, and it might be also harder to develop a vaccine because of how many mutations there are in this strain. But the fact that it's milder, and the fact that a lot of us have some vaccines, or most of us have some vaccines already
Mm-hmm.
in the system, I feel like the market is somewhat overdone their reaction to this. But regardless, have an investment system in place for your risk controls, your stop losses, your allocations being diversified, and all of that, and follow the news, because crypto is a risk asset. It's not a safe haven. It's not the same as gold. I think Peter Schiff tweeted something about gold having gone up with the news and crypto going down, and I think it's just wrong, because crypto is a risk asset. It's not a safe haven. It hedges against inflation, but it's still a risk asset. And when there's risk off scenarios and news and events like this, crypto is deemed to fall because of liquidations and people going into cash and stables. So make sure you follow the news and stay safe and be more cautious, because we don't know how fast or how widespread this variant has already spread. It takes time for things to be recorded.
And most importantly, wash your hands and wear your damn masks.
Exactly.
All right, guys. I believe that's all we have for you this week. Be sure to like, subscribe, share this video wherever you can. Make some noise about it. Let's get people feeding. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.